Okay, so instead of Parashat Pinchas, since I'm still on Israeli time, I'm suffering from jet lag, so we're going to talk a little bit about Parashat Matot. That really does not make a difference what parasha is that, because there is a lot to learn from everything, and it's overall the lesson that we learn rather than the weekly portion. I mean, we're not talking here about smorgasbord, right? Maybe next week we talk about Pinchas. So it is quite famous, and quite everybody knows that a true leader has to be an example to other people, or to the people in which he is leading. That concept comes to play a role even more so, even most significant in the educational part of leadership. And of course, you have to understand that as a leader, you also have to educate. If you don't want to do that, don't even think of becoming a leader. Any parent, father, mother, are considered to be the leaders of the children in which they brought to the world. Parents supposed to make a great effort to educate the kids to values of proper conduct, what we call derech eretz, and so on and so forth. Whether it's patience, whether it's tolerance, whether it's being considerate to the people, giving from yourself, from your time, from your effort to the needy, and so on and so forth. However, along the line of great successes, that sometimes there are moments of failure in leadership and in education. Even if you are an educator in school, or you're working with kids and so on and so forth, they themselves are obligated to really put a great effort into education and learning and so on and so forth, and really see their job more of as a mission rather than a job. If you don't see it like that, please get a job somewhere else. Of course, we always talk about burnout and so on and so forth. One of the most fields that they have a tremendous burnout is education, and of course there are different buffers for that, and there's self-compassion for. But if you're really motivated, you see there's a mission, there are less chances of you to get burnt out. And that's something that you really need to know. I mean, if you have a kid, you have a teacher that is completely burnt out, make sure you don't take it out on your kid. Because that person doesn't really, he's just passing his time. He's doing his job, but his job is not what you think it is. His job is to teach. And he's not teaching, he's just coming in to work to collect a paycheck and to move on. So regardless of the complexity that education takes, a necessary part of education, it is to be dedicated and to be persistent, the persistency of the educator in his educational path, and the belief that you could really educate and guide every person, even educate him to great and noble things, and every kid is capable, or every person is capable of great things as well. It's not, those great things are not reserved to individuals. They are a share of the whole entire community. Everybody can do that. Again, if you as an educator don't believe that everybody is capable in the same way, you should not be in education. That's why I'm very much against all this tracking that they have in certain institutions. The Kita Aleph, the Aleph and the Gimels and the Daleds, and the way they have it, the same things. It should not be like this. Now, the educational point that which I'm trying to bring here could be a message to all leaders and education people in all formats that are there, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a congregational rabbi, a parent, and so on and so forth. And let me try to explain. So one of the most central parts of Parashat Matot is the parasha of Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven. Bnei Israel are about to enter the land, and here comes the people of the tribe of Gad and Shevet Reuven. They come to Moshe, and they ask for him a permission not to enter Eretz Israel, but to stay in Ever HaYarden, to stay on the other side of the Jordan River. Why? Because they have a lot of cattle, they have a lot of sheep, and they were not going to be able, according to their understanding, to appropriately raise this great cattle and quantity of animals. Why, you called Yossi?
Fine.
In Eretz Israel. And then there is a tremendous discussion between Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven, and Moshe Rabbeinu. And maybe we could say that at the end of this discussion that is happening between them, Moshe Rabbeinu is able to educate these two tribes and really to set the appropriate priority to their lives. So therefore, in Perek Lamed Bet Pasuk Aleph, there is the pasuk that says the following: Umikne Rav, pay attention, Umikne Rav. And then there was a lot of cattle, Libnei Reuven ubnei Gad, Atzum Meod. It's tremendous. ויראו את ארץ יעזר ואת ארץ גלעד והנה המקום מקום מקנה. And therefore they saw that's a place, right, and so on and so forth. However, by Avraham Avinu, Padre Querido, right, you know the song? Avraham Avinu, Padre Querido, Bendicho, Luz de Israel. Yes. What was it, Bendicho? Blessed. Luz. Light, very good. Oh Hashem, we have a true Sephardi here. Ben Shimon, yes. Ben Shimon. However, by Avraham Avinu, yes, it says in Sefer Bereshit, Perek Yud Gimel, it says, V'Avraham kaved meod b'mikneh b'kesef u'b'zahav. So you see, if you're going to look at it on the surface, there's no difference between the wealth of Bnei Gad and Reuven and the other Chevre to Avraham Avinu. However, Rashi teaches us in the Parashat that there is a tremendous and fundamental difference between the two, and we should pay attention. Why? Because Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, possession and their cattle is mentioned before the names of the Shvatim. And by Avraham Avinu, first of all it says his name, then his wealth. And that's why I want to tell you again, okay, so we're not talking about Parashat Pinchas today. However, it is something, and I guess Mishamayim it was like that, or maybe because I'm just still jet lagged. But it's something that we have to understand, because if you will be able to change it today and not wait for next week, I guess there was a reason for that. And we all, even if one of us has to hear that, but we all have to hear it and take it into heart. So Rashi teaches us that the rechush and the mikneh that they had, which Bnei Reuven and Bnei Gad, was more important to them from anything else. Materialistic possession was their number one priority, even greater than their own family. Which wasn't the case by Avraham Avinu. Avraham knows what is the proper priority, and therefore the Torah mentions its name, and then later on, all that he has. Even more so, we have to pay attention to Pasuk Tet Zayin at the end of the Perek, where Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven ask Moshe to stay in Ever HaYarden, and they say, Gderot Tzon nivne lemiknenu po ve'arim letapenu. We're going to build not fences, I will call it corrals for our cattle, and then we're going to build also places for our families to stay in. Huh? What no? What? Bad move. Very bad move. So we see from here also that Bnei Gad, the Bnei Reuven, really show us that their possession, and to that matter could be also your job, is more important to you than everybody else in your house. In other words, they're pretty selfish to that matter, and they got it completely wrong. How many of us are poisoned with that point of view? And it says, "V'arem letafenu," and of course this is completely wrong. Therefore, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu answers them immediately in a very educational way. It says, I agree with your principal request to stay on this side of the Jordan. I understand that. However, it's very important that you change the order of your request and the priority. And Moshe tells them in Pasuk Chav Daled, "Bnu lachem arim letapchem v'gderot letzolchem." No. You're going to build first place for your kids, and then you're going to worry about your cattle, you idiots. In parentheses. And it seems that really they chapped what he was saying to them, because at the end of the discussion between them, they also answer, and the promise Moshe says, "Avadecha yasu kasher Adoni metzaveh." Your slaves, your servants will do exactly as you commanded us. Tapenu, nashenu, miknenu, v'chol behemtenu. So they corrected the order. So therefore it seems that the educational message of Moshe Rabbeinu was really well received by them, because they're mentioned by the appropriate order, and this is exactly what Rashi brings in the message that Rashi is trying to portray to us in Pasuk Tet Zayin. Nivnei lemiknenu po. In other words, Rashi says, "Chasim hayu al mamonam yoter mibneihem uvnotehem." They were more concerned with the well-being of their possessions, of the wealth, than their own family, than their own children. Why? She'ekdimu mikneihem letapam. Amar lahem Moshe, lo chen asu. Don't do it like this. Ha'ikar, ikar, ve'atafel, tafel. Whatever is important is important. Whatever is not important is not important. And I don't care what you call important. That's not important. In other words, you got to fix it. Bnu lachem tchila arim letapchem v'achar kach derot letzolchem. Make first houses for your families to stay in, and then corrals for your cattle. Each and every one of us, we should know, is has like a little God inside of him, a little divine voice inside of us, with the ability to really create realities with our words. That's why you got to be very, very careful with what you're saying. For example, if you're going to, let's say you have a 3-year-old kid, right? And you're going to call your kid, "You idiot, you stupid little kid." You just created with your words a reality that your kid is, what did I say, idiot and a stupid little kid. In other words, that's how you are teaching the child to have the perception about himself as being an idiot and being a stupid little kid. You cannot do that. If you're very upset with your child, you could tell your child, "Listen, your behavior is not appropriate and does not fit a person tzaddik like you." You give him a point of reference that he really is a potential to become good. However, his behavior is not good, so he can fix it. But when you call your kid an idiot, morons, what other superlatives you give your kid, therefore, what do you want from him when he's acting according to the way you labeled him? You can't blame him, because that's why you made him. You created a reality by your words. So in a way, the ability, it's almost like what we said in Sefer Bereshit. Adam betzalmenu, in other words, with our words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a reality with his words. Vayi or, and there was light. And here, Vayi stupid, and he became stupid. So we have almost a divine ability to create a reality. Now you gotta be very, very careful in how you interact with people in terms of your words. Always try to find something positive to say, something good to say. So this is how you influence the person. This is how you create a better reality for yourself. But you should know that it says, Imrot Hashem Imrot Teorot, Kesef Tzaruv Be'al'il Le'aretz Mezukak Shivatam, it says in Masachet Sanhedrin. The words of Hashem, the whatever Hashem says, is tahor, is mezukak. There is no problem with it whatsoever. It's pure. There is no separation, divider between the medaber and the dibur. The words of Hashem and Hashem is one. That's why when we says that the Torah is Hashem, right? The Torah, Hashem and the Torah is one. That's when it's pure. Right? And that's what the same thing with us. If we have a barrier between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is a disconnect. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you need that level of purity. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. And therefore, there's not going to be any difference between the dibur and the action. And when you're going to speak appropriately, the actions are going to be appropriate. And the action is appropriate because the dibur is appropriate because you are appropriate. But when you are crooked internally, you're going to think crooked, speak crooked, and behave crooked. You have to understand. And that's what Moshe is trying to really teach them. And that's why if a person, everything that he spoke was pure, right? And that's the level of a tzaddik gozer v'akadosh baruch hu mekayem. It's not that a tzaddik, forces HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because when a person is refining himself to the level of a tzaddik, and we say, if I, for example, there is a conflict. Let's say, for example, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells me, I don't know, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells me, wants me to do. I don't know. To be an honest man. And I don't want to be an honest man. I'm just becoming an honest because I have to, not because I want to. So therefore there's going to be a disconnect in that, and it's going to be a problem. Because when do I actually, you're going to say to yourself, when am I actually going to do what I want to do? Why do I have to keep Chalav Yisrael? Why do I have to watch my eyes? I don't want to look at women going half naked in Miami. I mean, I want to. Niflaot HaBoetz, creation, wonderful. Marabu Ma'asech Hashem. I mean, I don't see you, by the way, getting so excited looking at cows in the meadow, right? I mean, it's, right? Think about it. It's just otters. I mean, what is wrong with you, right? So therefore, I'm not entitled to my own interpretation? Well, then there is a barrier between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The action is not going to be like this. How is it that tzaddik gozer v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu mekayem? Because that person, asar retzono, retzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu retzono. I want whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu want. I'm not saying you don't have a personality, but you merge yourself with the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, if I'm a tzaddik and I ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu does it because there's no barrier between me and him. It's one. I don't have a power to bend HaKadosh Baruch Hu's arm behind his back. But he does what I want because my will is his will. Or should I say, the other way I should really say it, his will is my will. What happened to that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Kadoshim Tiyu? HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to be Kadosh. And I don't want to be Kadosh. I want to go to Thailand. I want to go to Phuket. I don't want to go to be Kadosh. Hatul. And then what am I going to say? Oh, okay, I don't understand Torah. Of course you're not going to understand Torah. Because Torah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one. It doesn't become a blockhead. Why? Because you're not pure. You're not letting the light shine. You got to purify yourself. And that we learn this from this. We have a priority order that is really defective. You see, I told you there's a reason why we have to do this parasha today. HaKol Zeh Mishamayim. Now, it says, and that's why if a person all is dibur or tahor, On that it says, "V'tigzar omer v'yakom lecha," as it says in Iyov. Iyov is Job, Perek 22, pasuk chavchet. In other words, whatever you're going to ask for is going to happen. It's not because you're doing magic. It's because you mevatel yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What does that mean? It means like this, and the same thing in marriage. It's the same thing in marriage. You see, if you're one person, you're very vulnerable. Very vulnerable. If there are two people can defend themselves. Right? We're standing back to each other, and we could defend ourselves. However, you could get overwhelmed. However, what do we say? Chuta meshulash bimera lo yenutak. What's the third party? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we, husband and wife, include HaKadosh Baruch Hu with our relationship, it's not being chopped up because it's triple bound, triple distilled. And how do we do that? How do we bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu to our lives? Say, hey, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, come in, I put a note, I do Google search, what do I do? Google Maps, don't do this. How do I do it? Right? We are standing back to each other. We are mevatel ourselves. Right? We dismiss our own self-entity, and we create space within ourselves, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes in the middle. When you fool yourself, there's no room for God inside of you. You fool yourself. You need to make the room inside for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to come in. You can't make movement by yourself. Now you might understand why it says, "Sharui belo isha, sharui beli Torah, belo bracha." Because if I'm moving, I need a point of reference. So if I'm moving myself, there's no room because I'm moving with myself. However, if I'm standing back to back with someone and we're moving like that, together, then we create the room inside of us, and then we become one. Verstehst? You understand? Comprende? Okay. Now, but to most of us, it doesn't really work, and the reason is not because of that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is angry with us, or is not listening to us, or does not hear us. It is simply because one thing, and that's one thing only. You go over there. You wanna wash your hands to eat something with us?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
It is simply because we didn't make that room inside of us for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We did not include HaKadosh Baruch Hu in us. There's no room for Him in our lives. And we need to find, you're lucky if you find a little slot in your busy schedule to fit HaKadosh Baruch Hu within your busy schedule. And that's why it's like that. That's why there's a disconnect. That's why I don't feel spiritual today. I don't feel, Rabbi, it doesn't speak to me anymore. It doesn't speak to you anymore. Go get the wax out of your ears. You don't have time for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You want give me for what? Why should I give it to you? Do you do what I ask you to do? No. So why should I do what you ask me to do? How many times a day you actually thought about HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Thought about it. Well, by the way, that's many of the reasons why people all of a sudden they get married, and all of a sudden they find themselves. Why are you killing the cucumbers over there? What are you doing there? You're like fishing for whale. That's why people all of a sudden, after being married for X amount of years, and it doesn't make a difference whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 20 years, all of a sudden they said, "Look, what am I doing with this person?" Because they took it for granted. They actually never thought about the person even once a day. As a person, they're okay. What's the quality of our relationship? What can I make it better? There's no room. You only think about yourself, and you're busy with yourself. In other words, you become solid, and there's no room inside for anybody else to penetrate your life. And then one day you're going to find yourself a very, very lonely person, because You never were able to include anybody in your life. Whether it's a person or God. When was the last time you thought about your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Not what you could ask from Him, but your relationship. But maybe you don't even know what relationship is all about. Maybe that's all what the problem stems for. But that's something else. So now, going back into the educational part, being a leader, there's two different types of talk, of speech. There is one, na'eh doresh ve'en na'eh mekayem. It says in Masechet Yevamot, a person, very good drasha, you're right, it makes a lot of sense, but when he comes to himself, he doesn't do it, right? And, the person, by the way, can have to be a tremendous speaker. It could be a very, electrifying speaker and so on and so on. But his actions stink, right? To himself, and basically he's idle because he talks, but he doesn't even hear what he's saying to himself so he can become better. It's just an idea and so on and so forth. But that's why his talk is, say, external. It's just shell, it's the outside. And on the other hand, there's another person that's na'eh doresh ve'na'eh mekayem. He says, and he does it, first of all, he does it. In other words, that his speech, whatever he says, is really a part of his essence and really who he is. He speaks from, his own experience. He's speaking from working on himself and contemplating on himself, and he is what he's speaking. And then you feel that genuine speech that comes out from the person, because there's no difference between the speech, as we said before, and the person, because the action is there. And that's something for us to remember. In other words, he doesn't really believe in his words, what he's saying is the words of truth, and really he aims for the truth. He's also able to be connected not only with what he's saying, but also with the person in which he's talking to. Because he can see himself in the people in which he's talking to. He relates to them, and he doesn't preach to them. He relates to them, and then they hear it, and then they become better. And as a parent, for example, each to his own, could see himself in his children. And if you relate to the child that was you in your children, you could understand where they're coming from. And you'll act different. You understand where they're coming from. You're not there, they're not a nuisance to you. And you speak and you act the same way. That's why it's very important to you, if you are caring about your children or your grandchildren that didn't even come to the world yet, your grandchildren, to most of you, I hope, unless you start popping kids when you are 5 years old. You have to start immediately implementing this change in your perspective in your life. In other words, you have to stop monkeying around. You have to be very serious about that, because you're going to be one lousy example. One lousy example. And it is absolutely not fair what you would be doing to your children being such a bad example. You have to fix yourself up. That's what a leader, what's an educator or parent is. And then when you say so, as we say, is que sale del alma toca la alma. What comes from the heart touches the heart. In other words, when you're truthful and the person gets the message, you really care about them, they're going to listen to you. Because it comes from the heart. It's not external. And we are talking over there about nedarim and making neders and so on and so forth. So the Parashat of Nedarim is connected not only to the koach hadibur, not only to the ability to speak, but also to the machshava, to the thought. And this has to do with the issue of Midian, Parashat Pinchas, that's what we are dealing with now, right? We say about Midian that is the same. Midian comes from Chazal Adarshim. The Midian comes from the same root as Dimyon, imaginary stuff, and that is really I think the cause of all illness like that in the world. I mean, one second. Correct me if I'm wrong. Bnei Israel wasn't just a bunch of Spartans that there were no women around there. There were women around them. So if there's a woman around you, it's your wife or a potential mate, what business do you have to go? Why would you go with another woman? Because it's your dimyon, your imaginary. The imagination is working. That is better. It's dimyon, illusion. And to illusions, it's very difficult to, if you're obsessed with illusions, as most of our society is obsessed with illusion, that's why Moshe was startled. Like, I don't know what to do. So what did Pinchas do? He came in and pulled the plug. Actually, he put the plug, but he pulled the plug. I'm going to stop this right now. Imagine you're sitting in front of the TV, mesmerized, as some filth that you watch on TV, and filth today in TV comes everywhere. And you don't know what to do. You're like this. You're paralyzed. Imagine you're sitting with your mother-in-law, right? And you're watching some, movie or whatever. All of a sudden you see there a whole Maaseh Bereshit, if you know what I mean. What are you going to do? And you see your mother-in-law looking at you like that, so you need somebody to come in and pull the plug immediately. Oh, where's the remote control? What are you going to do? Well, that's what Pinchas did. So it's the dimyon. So that's what it is. Now, and for us also Midian, according to the Mekubalim, Midian means a variety of different opinions. He says this, and we have to accept it, and he says that, and we have to accept it. And then before we know, we are completely confused. We don't know what the halakha says anymore. And I told you this many, many times. The decisions to whether something is right or something is wrong is not based on culture, is not based on my emotions, it's based on halakha. Halakha will determine what's right and what's wrong. The Torah determines that. But when there are different opinions, right? This opinion, that opinion, and his opinion, and I don't know what to do. And that's the problem with Midian. They came with so many different ideas and so many different opinions, but they said they didn't know what to do anymore, so they fell into it. I'm not saying be disconnected from the world. That's not what I'm saying. But in order not to be lost, you need to have a certain path, a GPS, and your spiritual GPS is to know the halachot, to know what the Torah wants from you, to know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from you. And if you don't do it, you are going to get completely confused, and that confusion will be your epitaph. Album, song by King Crimson. Confusion will be my epitaph. On your tombstone, they're going to write, he was a very confused person. He didn't know what right and wrong. And that's what happened to us in Etzadat. The Nachash put this tumah in us, and we don't know what right and what wrong anymore. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to leave us like this. Now, therefore, ikdim trufa lamakah. He knew HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to happen. So therefore, in order to prevent it, he made the medicine before there was the illness. And what was that? That's what the Gemara tells us. That before he created the world, he created the Torah. So the Torah is the medicine, is the taflin for confusion. Because you know what to do, and if you know what to do, you're not confused. And if you don't learn, you're going to get lost. And you're going to call the tameh tahor, and the tahor tameh. And there's no way around it. There's no such thing as going on vacations when you're ben Torah. You want vacation from the Torah? Not a problem. Die. Your wife wants you to go on vacation, say, Habibti, my vacation, not a problem. You're right, we need to go on vacation. You need vacation for me, I need vacation for you. I'm going to the Bet Medrash. That's my vacation. Lo Punta Cana, velo anything like that. Bet Medrash. You want me to be the leader? You want to be the leader of the family? To be a model, a role model? Remember a kid one time was going up and down, she was a kid. And I said to her, whatever. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm a role model. She was going up and down the rows in the supermarket. I thought it was hysterical. I was laughing. Okay, you can't be confused. You have to know what needs to be done. And if your wife has a problem, or your future wife has a problem with you learning, you have to send her to some Rabbani to straighten her up, to give her some education. It means that she's confused in that. She needs to be mitchazek. Your wife should come and say to you, Habibi, what are you doing home? What are you doing home? Lech tilmad. I'm married, I want somebody to be an example for my kid, not some Amaretz Chatul who is not going to know from what left and what right. What are you doing? What vacation? Vacation, no vacation. You have to go to learn. You come from break from Yeshiva, we'll have some wine, we'll drink some ginger ale, we'll eat some tomahawk steak, whatever you guys eat. But then you're going to go back to Yeshiva, take a little nap, go to Yeshiva. That's terrific, wonderful, wonderful life. You are lucky if you have a girl like that. And I can tell you this, if you're not married, if you're not looking for a girl like that, you have a problem. And if you have a girl like this, grab her. Grab her, it doesn't make a difference how she looks. I mean, grab her in terms of like after marriage. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? And also that was the case of Yitro. Yitro came from Midian. He was a komer for Avodah Zarah. And he knew all the religions. He knew everything. He looked everywhere. Until he came and he says, what did he say? Ata yadati ki gadol Hashem mikol Elokim. Right? I knew. How does he know that Hashem is greater than all the Elokim? He went, the Gemara tells us, he knew every Avodah Zarah in the world. So, and by the way, you know what the Midrash says, Moshe Rabbeinu had 2 kids, right? So he said to him, listen, you take one kid, you teach him the way, you make him a goody bod, Yeleh Tov Yerushalayim, and I'm going to take the other one, I'm going to show you that I'm better. I'm going to show him every Avodah Zarah in the world, and then I'm going to show him that Hashem is Elokim, and that's Achitov. Like this, it doesn't have to look, right? And you know what happened to this kid, right? He made Pesel Micha, Kol Tov Yafeh. That's not the way to go. If you want to train your kids, you teach them by the truth. You don't show them every single lie in the world, because there's endless lies. However, there's only one truth. Teach your children by the truth, and you should live by this truth. And now, for example, if a person else would have said, well, I know, it's not that necessarily he knows because he doesn't know anything else. As Chazal tells us about Shlomo HaMelech, that if somebody else would have said, Hakol Evel, everything else is nonsense, right? People say, how do you know it's nonsense? Well, you didn't see the whole entire world. How do you know it's nonsense? But there was nobody like Shlomo HaMelech that had all the pleasures in the world. I don't know if it's a pleasure, he had 1,000 mother-in-laws. I feel bad for the guy. All right? But it says, then you can believe in that called heaven. When a person, so what does it mean? It doesn't mean you have to try everything. However, a person that said something needs also to understand what he's talking about. And therefore, you need to know what you're talking about. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, you can persuade me, I'll call you a liar. Because you don't know what you're talking about. If you tell your kids to behave appropriately, if you're going to tell your kids, family is above all, and you yourself don't act like family is above all, family is there to serve you, the kids are going to realize that, and they're going to say they're never going to listen to you, because you're a liar. And you should know that sheker and raglayim, one way or another, the lie is going to come out. So you should know that there's only one truth. If you're going to tell your kids to act like a Ben Torah, to sit down and learn, and you yourself don't learn, your kid can tell you, what are you talking about? Why should I learn? You're not doing this. Don't tell them, well, I had to be mefarnes you. No, a kid wants you to show him an example of what to be, not what not to be. Show your kid what to do and how to do it right, and he will be able to do so, and then distinguish everything else that is not it. You will stay away from it. If you're not going to do so, you're simply setting your kids to a failure, or to that matter, your congregation if you're a rabbi, or your students if you're a teacher, or your workers if you're a boss. You have to understand, you're right, as a worker, for example, if the boss tells you, your job is to be here from 9 to 5, and the boss comes at 10 o'clock and leaves at 4 o'clock, you can't say, well, I'm staying like this. Because, first of all, the people will do say that. And of course, the answer is, listen, he's the boss, he can do whatever you want, you need to do your job. However, you should know that the people will do so, so therefore, as a boss, you need to come there at 8 and leave at 6. You don't want to do it? Fine. Don't be a boss. However, don't ask people to do something that you yourself don't expect them to do something which you don't expect from yourself. And that's why Yitro, right, went to all the religions in the world until he went to the end, and then says, "Oh, Hashem is Elokim, Hashem is the one." But we don't need to do so. There's a much further, faster way to get to the bottom of things and to do the right thing. You just do the emet, live by the truth. So overall, that brings us to Moshe Rabbeinu, when Moshe Rabbeinu corrected them, and that's what a leader does. That's why when we give a teudah, ordination to a rabbi, we say yoreh, yoreh, teach, teach. The main goal of a rabbi, of a congregation rabbi, is to teach and to be an example of how to do things, not of how not to do things. And as we can see, Moshe Rabbeinu was not only a great leader, was also a tremendous educator. Moshe Rabbeinu does not give up, does not get burned out, and he gives an unbelievable educational message to all of us. We have to make a priority in life, and we have to make a priority is good. However, the priority has to be also a good priority in life. In other words, where the people that are dependent on you come first, and that will be your family, that will be your kids, and after that, your possessions. In other words, if the environment in which you live in is not productive to your kids in terms of the spiritual growth, you don't make a cheshbon for your lousy house, you sell it, and you move to a place in which your kids will be able to flourish in an appropriate manner. The house is a mausoleum if you don't do it this way. A house is something you sell. It's not something you fall in love with. You fall in love with your kids and your family. If you are young and you're a big shot, and you don't teach your kids that, by example, not by preaching, by example, what will happen as a result of that when you're going to get old, and everybody gets old unless they die very young, when you're going to get old, don't expect your children to take care of you because you never set them the proper example. However, don't blame them, blame yourself. So, Rabotai, there's a lot of work to do. There is a lot of work to do. And I'm glad that we got it over with this today, so we don't have to wait another week to start thinking and acting appropriately. There is no time, because you don't know if tomorrow is going to be your last day of the rest of your life. Shabbat Shalom.